Del here from Spartan Racing again. Welcome back to the channel. I haven't put anything up for a little while, been a little busy work-wise, so hopefully I can start getting a bit more content. Now, I was requested by one of the subscribers to do another tutorial on the painting of the cars for iRacing, and one of the suggestions was he wanted to know about creating the matte paints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another painting tutorial, basically from the beginning, and cover everything from doing the chrome to the matte, and hopefully you guys can follow along with this. It's relatively simple, and I'm just going to use some base design. I'm not going to create anything from scratch, but hopefully you can take it from where to sort of wherever you want to go from there. Now I'm going to be working with the Ferrari GT3 488 and just go through some of the steps. I do use Photoshop. I know you can do this in other software packages, but I work with Photoshop. I just find it a lot easier. So please follow along, and hopefully this will help. So let's get started. So to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use one of the base designs, as I mentioned before, from iRacing. And if you go to where it says printable area and you scroll down, you'll see car patterns. And if you open that up and turn on the car patterns folder, and you can slowly start going through, switching off each one of these patterns to come up with a design that is preset from iRacing. Now some of these designs are pretty ordinary, but some of them aren't bad, and you can certainly make something out of these. So just bear with me while I flick through and find something which is going to be, I guess, a good sort of usable design that we can work with. So this one will do. Actually, this isn't too bad because it gives us some sort of relatively large areas that we can work with. So what I do is I pick the pattern that I want, and I click and I drag this up outside of the oops, went a little bit too far. I click that and drag that outside of the car patterns folder, close the folder and turn it off. So I have this base pattern I'm going to use. The next step from this is to then create a series of layers with layer masks to be able to fill with the colors that you require. So what I do first is I go up to select and then down to color range, and I click on the areas that are in red, and I click the red, and as you can see here, it's selected all the areas that are showing up in red. I don't change the fuzziness, I leave that at 100%, and I hit OK, and it puts the marching ants around that red area. One thing I do like to do is go up to select, modify, and expand by 1 pixel. That allows everything to, all the paints to sort of lock into each other very well, and you don't get any areas of mismatch of where you haven't quite selected the area correctly, because when you do the color range selection, it is defined by the actual very edge of the color, and if there's a slight little alignment issue, you can get some areas where other colors can start creeping through. So I just expand it by 1 pixel. Then what I do is I create a layer, so I go down to my new layer, create new layer, and then I add a layer mask. So I come again down to the bottom and to the add layer mask option. And as you can see, that has now selected a layer mask where the marching ants were, and it's just selected those areas that I had selected. The next thing is I go back to my car pattern. I go select, color range, and I'll select the green. Do the same thing, hit OK, select, modify, expand by 1 pixel, create a new layer, and add layer mask. And then one more time, go back to the car pattern, select color range, select the blue, hit OK, select, modify, and expand by 1 pixel. Go to new layer and create a layer mask. So what we have here is we have our red base layer, we have our green, what I'm going to call the color layer, and the blue, I'm going to call it a chrome layer. So now what we need to do is choose colors and how to actually fill those colors in. So I'm going to start off with the red, And everything that is red I'm going to make black. So I'm going to make it, it's going to eventually be a matte black, so I'll make it black. So what I need to do is come over and just select the default colors. So my foreground is black and my background is white. I come up to edit. I'm making sure that you have selected that layer, not the layer mask. Make sure that you select the layer so you've got the frame around the actual layer. Edit, fill with foreground color, hit OK, and as you can see, everything that was red is now black. We'll do the same thing with what we kind of call the color layer, which is the green. So I want to make this a nice color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select on the actual color swatch and pick a color that will, I think, will kind of suit, or whatever color you want to pick. So let's say, for instance, let's pick, say, something like a nice sort of orange, just for the hell of it, and select that orange and hit OK. We've got our layer selected, edit, fill, foreground color, and we have our orange selected. The next thing is the chrome. So everything that is in blue is going to be in chrome. So we select that blue layer. And now what we're going to do is we've already got our background selected as white. If you don't have white in here, just click on the default colors and it'll go back to black and white. Go edit, fill, and now what we're going to choose is the background color. And hit OK. And now those white areas are now being filled in. So the next step is to determine how we want whether we want the color to be a metallic orange, or whether we want it to be a matte orange, a more of a glossy black, or a matte black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the black and the orange matte. So it's going to be a matte black and a matte orange with a chrome highlight in where these little blue areas were. So what I need to do first is go up and delete the layer mask. So I select the layer mask, I pull it down and drop it into the little bin here, and it says apply master layer before removing, which we want to do, and we hit apply. And as you can see now, it's applied, and it has actually just created a selection of everything that is in the black. One thing you can do is, you've finished with this car pattern now, you can just drop this back into the car patterns folder, because you actually don't need it anymore. So we've got our black selected. Next thing is the orange. We want to do the same thing, click on the layer mask so that's selected, drag that into the bin, apply that, and do exactly the same thing for the chrome. Oops, and apply that, and that's now gone. Now we want to make, as I said before, the black and the orange, we want to make them to be matte. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the black layer, go up to the drop down menu and go to merge down, and that has now merged the black and the orange together. I'm not worried too much about these little bits and pieces here. These are sort of things that you can fill in after. If you have a look at this selection here where this comes up in blue, I think they are actually part of the mirrors, if I'm right. Here we go. That just wasn't turned on, so they're the mirrors. So they'll just be in a standard black, or if you want, you can actually paint the mirrors of different colours. They're in a sort of a grey colour at the moment, but I'll just leave everything sort of as default. So I now have my matte layer and my chrome layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the name and change this to matte, and double click on the layer 8 and change that to chrome. The next thing is we need to apply these into the spec map folder. So to do this, what you do is I select both of the files, so I hold down the shift key. So I select the first one, then I hold the shift key and select the second one, so the matte and chrome. Then I hold down the alt or the option key and I click and drag. By holding the alt and the option key, that copies these layers. We don't actually want to move these layers, we want to copy them. You can do that, either do it that way, or you can come down and you can go to duplicate layers. So I'm going to hold the alt or the option key down, click, as you can see I've got the little double arrow. and I'm going to drag that right up to the top and drop it into the Chrome spec map folder. And if I open that up, you'll actually see that they're sitting in here. Now, my Chrome drops into the red channel, and my matte drops into the green channel folder. So there's the red channel metallic and the green channel roughness folder. Now I'm going to open up the red channel, and I'm going to drag the Chrome underneath the parts that were already predetermined and put in there by Iracing. I'm then going to go to the green channel and do the same thing with the matte that I've created. So I now have those two in those channels, and you can see they were copied. I still have my original paint here. So here's my original paint. First thing I want to do is just go File. So once you've added your logos and your bits and pieces and what have you, and I'll make a video later on of how to actually apply logos and get the logos to be in the Chrome or matte or whatever, but this is basically just the basic painting tutorial. So I'm going to go File, Save As, and I want to save this. I'm just going to put it on my desktop, and we'll just give it a name. We'll call it Test Ferrari 488 GT3, and I want to change that to a Targa or a .tga file. Hit Save. I usually just leave them as 24-bit pixels, and hit OK. So I've got my color work done now. The next thing I need to do is I need to do my spec maps for the matte and the Chrome. So what I do is I go to my red channel and I select the Chrome. Now this is where it can get a little bit tricky, and something that you need to sort of pay a bit of attention to. On Iracing forums there is this little chart that they give you explaining about how the matte and the Chrome works. So as you can see here, at 100% black or zero light coming through, you get very little Chrome. When you go down to completely white, you get quite a lot of Chrome. So let's translate that into what we're trying to do. So we're going to select this Chrome channel, the one that we copied in here. Now what I need to do is, this is very important, you need to lock the pixels, because all we want to affect is the actual pixels in here. We don't want to affect the rest of the layer. So we lock those pixels, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on our foreground swatch. Now remember, 0 or complete black, 0 L value, complete black, is literally no Chrome. White or 100% L value is very Chrome. That very Chrome sometimes can be a bit in your face. So what I like to do is I like to bring the Chrome down to around the 85% mark, because I find it's a little more subtle, and it still looks very good in Chrome, but it's just not super reflective. And I hit OK. Now I've locked the pixels, so all I'm going to affect is the pixels in this layer, and I go Edit, Fill with foreground color. So that's the one I created, and I hit OK, and that has actually painted those pixels that color, and I can turn off the lock, and I can close this folder. I can then go to the green channel, and let's have a look at the matte. The same principle works with the matte. Completely black is a little bit metallic, or not very matte. Completely white starts becoming very, very matte. So it works the same way. So I'm going to select this layer, lock the pixels, select my foreground color, and I want this to be the matte. You can get a really, really, really matte effect by going right up to 0. I like to sort of bring that down to about 90% and hit OK. We've locked the pixels. Excuse my croaky throat. Edit, Fill, foreground color. OK, and it's now edited those pixels. Then if I turn on my spec map, I can actually see the areas that I'm going to be using that are going to be in Chrome, and most of these areas, as you can see now, are going to be in the matte. Now this is the important part. You can now save this. So File, save as, and you save this as a TGA file as well. Let's drop it on desktop. Save this as a TGA file as well. But the naming has to be right. So the naming is like this: car underscore spec underscore, and then you need to put in your Iracing number. Now, if you go to your account details, you can pick up your Iracing number and you add that number in here. That's your the code that Iracing recognizes you with. So this is the number that you put in, and it's very important that you do it like this. And then you can save this onto wherever you want to save it to for the time being. I'm actually working on a Macintosh, so I need to transfer this over onto my gaming PC. But that is how we create the spec map. Now, what I'm going to do after this is I will come back with an addition added on to the end of this video of showing you how to apply the spec map into Iracing, and then have a look at it, and we'll have a look online and see, I'll have a look through Iracing and see how the car actually looks. So I'll be back shortly with that information. Hi there, it's Del back from Spartan Racing for the next part of this second painting tutorial. So how to get the paints on your car and get them, the metallic and the matte paints, actually so you can see them and so other people can see them. So firstly, I have copied the TGA file, which was the paint file, over to my desktop, and I've also copied the spec file. Now, like I said, it's important with the spec file to load your actual number after the word spec underscore, so your actual the number that you are assigned by Iracing as your I don't know what it's for, but it's your ID number, I guess. So just get the car underscore spec underscore, then paste your number in there so that the game recognizes that spec map for your car. So the first thing we do is go to Trading Paints, and I'll just load the paint that we created. So choose new paint, upload paint. Just going to go to my desktop, and that's the test file. Open that up, and we just give that a moment to load into Trading Paints. Obviously, if you have a faster internet connection to me, it loads a lot quicker. Okay, and we just give that a minute to redraw, and as you can see, that's the paint that we actually added in. So we've now got our paint in there, and if we go to Iracing, and I'll just close the camera tool, and if I refresh this paint, just Control R refreshes the paint, and just give it a second. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't quite refresh as well enough as you want with Trading Paint, so sometimes you do have to quit out of the test track and then come back in. So that's obviously not refreshing as well as I'd like. So let's quit out of this, go back to Iracing, and then I'll just load up that track again. So yeah, that's one thing I have found, which is a little bit of annoyance every now and again. You'll go just to refresh the paint that you put in Trading Paints, and for some reason it just doesn't take. So quit the session and go back into the session, and then usually it comes back in and starts and loads the paint correctly. So bear with me for a second while we get this to load up. Okay, to see the car, you just hit the test button and wait there for a couple of seconds, and then escape out of the car and just fast forward a little bit until you see the car pops up, and then stop. Okay, so here we have the car loaded. Now, as you can see, it's got the wrong spec map on there because it's still got the spec map from my previous paint. So if I just
So you can see the Spartan spec map underneath. So we need to change that, obviously. So to do that, what I do is I go into my documents folder under Iracing, under paint, and into the folder for the Ferrari 488 GT3 and grab. Okay, so we've got the car spec with the correct number in there, and I'm going to drop the car spec into the documents Iracing paint Ferrari 488 GT3, and now we can close that. And hopefully if we go back to Iracing and refresh this, it should put the correct spec, which it has now. So as you can see, we now have the matte orange, and we've got the matte black, and we've got the chrome stripe. So if we just move this camera down, let's turn this around a bit. There you go. So now we have the car with the correct spec map that we expected. So this is all well and good. So you'll be able to see this car in Iracing and it'll show up for you, but it won't show up for other people until you put the spec map into Trading Paints. But Trading Paints only takes what's called a .mip file. As you can see, I now have the spec map loaded in here. And if I go back to my documents folder and I go to Documents, Iracing, Paint, Ferrari 488, and Date Modified, it is created from the TGA file, from the spec TGA file, it's created this .mip file, and that's what you need for Trading Paints now. So Iracing will actually create the file once you load into a session. So all I need to do now is go back to Trading Paints, go to Choose Paint, Add Spec Map, select File, and if I go to where that file lives, which is my Documents folder, Iracing, Paint, let's get the Ferrari 488, and there is that MIP file there with the number. Hit open, and that's now loaded the spec map into Trading Paints. Now you won't see it on the preview, but now that you've put it in Trading Paints, other people will be able to see the metallics and the matte effects on your paintwork. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers the questions for one of the subscribers who asked about the matte paints. And good luck. And if there's anything else I can help you with, let me know. Or if you come up with some better ideas and easier ways of doing things, please tell me. I'd just like to say thank you again to the subscribers. Thank you for all the cool comments. I really do try and answer everyone I can. But be safe and enjoy your sim racing. Thank you.